If you're watching this, you probably feel stuck. You have massive ambitions, but you're paralyzed. You might be like me, feeling like laziness is killing your dreams. I want to share something that helped me, which is the GTD method. And people don't understand that it's not just about getting things done. It's actually a step-by-step guide for living a fulfilling life. Okay, so this system personally helped me. I was failing out of uni. Now I'm working the equivalent of more than full-time, fly in, fly out. I'm studying technically full-time, 3 units per semester. My results are much higher. I'm maintaining a social life, fitness routines, and I'm doing personal projects like making this YouTube video, which I'm very happy about. And I hope that I can provide some kind of value to you because this has been extremely valuable for me. I used to think that it was an admission of failure to rely on a system rather than your own head to get things like this done. But that was just ego and a lack of persistence getting in the way. So here's the logic to make this irrefutable, I hope, to you. To get what you want, you have to identify what you want, decide what you can do about it, if you want to do something about it, and then execute. And GTD just gives you a system to do that. Okay, so here's a quote I really love by George Bernard Shaw. "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." So if you're that unreasonable person that's watching this video and wants to get things done, I highly recommend this system. Okay, so if you notice yourself having the same thought about what you should do day after day, that's probably not a great feeling. And what that is your brain reminding you that you have an open loop. So you have something that's on your mind because you haven't dealt with it. You might have told yourself you're going to deal with it. Your brain doesn't believe you. And that might be because you've given it evidence before that when you tell it you're going to do something, you don't. But whatever the reason, we need to create a system so that your brain does start to believe you. It's important that you develop this system as soon as possible, because every time you make one of these pacts with yourself and are unable to follow through, you give yourself that little bit more evidence that you're the kind of person who can't follow through. And that eats away at your sense of self, your view of yourself as someone with agency. And that's highly negatively impacting the way you see yourself and therefore the way you move around in the world. Okay, so let's get right into how the system works. You want to identify what the issues are, the gap between where the world is and the way you want it to be. Decide whether or not you're going to do something about it. And if you're going to do something about it, how? And then execute. So the GTD method calls this capture, clarify, engage. Okay, so the capture process is fairly radical. You should be capturing everything if you're performing the system as it's intended. Every thought you have about something not being the way you wish it would be, capture that down. You don't want to have that same thought again. You want to make a conscious decision about whether or not you're going to engage with it. If you do want to engage with it, even more important to have it written down somewhere in a place where you know you're going to look at it again to make sure that it does get dealt with. Okay, so now I'm just going to take some time to work through the GTD flowchart. So you have some thought about something not being the way you want it to be. You put it into your inbox. You can have a variety of inboxes. I just use a simple Notion database and pen and paper. You want to have as few inboxes as you can get away with, but you want access to an inbox at almost all times so that you can get these thoughts out of your head. So when you are looking to process what's in your inbox, now that once you've captured it, the clarification process is just a simple sorting flowchart, basically. And all of these items are going to end up in their own spots. So it might be trash. You might look at it and say, I'm actually not going to do that. That goes in the trash. Perfect. Your brain doesn't remind you about it because you've decided not to deal with it. You might say it's a someday maybe. So your brain is also going to allow you to not think about that anymore because you've told it, yes, I understand. This is something that I could do. I might do it later. I'm going to review that list again. And if it stands out to be a bit more, I will do it. I will act on it. You can also have a tickler folder or a calendar item. That's something that you want to be reminded about at a later date. So yeah, I use my calendar for this and just a simple Notion filtering system. So if the due date is in a week, my Notion shows it to me. If it's not, I don't need to see it. Okay, so the other case of things in your inbox that you're not going to act on straight away is reference material. So if it's for a project, you just put it with the rest of your project notes. If it's something else, you just need a filing cabinet or some digital system that you rely on. The scope of this video is not to go into that, but I personally just use a alphabetical physical filing cabinet folder system. And on my computer, I just have nested folders that make sense to me. For example, university, the years 2025, 2026, what the unit is, tutorials, and then I can quickly navigate to tutorials following that logical process. Okay, so the item in your inbox might be something that you want to action. So look at the item. It might be buy something. So you want to think to yourself, is this action going to require more than one step? Can I buy something in one step? Probably not. It depends what it is. You might be wanting to buy, for example, an iPhone phone case. Are you just going to be able to buy it with one click on Amazon? Maybe you want to do some research. So the steps would be research, then buy. If the project's more complicated, you might want to do some project planning, and that will give you more actions. So you'll just have steps of actions involved inside the project, and they just filter back into your list of actions. Okay, if you get an action that you can do in less than 2 minutes, for example, text mum happy birthday, just do it in 2 minutes. The reason for this is you can file it away in your system, but it's probably going to take you 2 minutes to look at it again, decide what to do with it again anyway. And if it's going to take 2 minutes, it's better to have it done now than later. That's kind of the reasoning for the 2 minute rule. If you've got a lot more time, make it a 5 minute rule. It doesn't matter too much, but if it's a very quick job, you can do it. If you know you're gonna spend a lot of time doing these 2 minute things like me, when there's something urgent you need to do, maybe make it a 1 minute rule so that you get to what you need to be doing quickly. Okay, so the other things you can do with actionable items, you can delegate them. So if it's someone else can do it for you and it's their task, maybe you have a personal assistant, maybe you're in a workplace and it's not in the scope of your work, just delegate that. When you delegate something, good practice to add a reminder to your system to just say, remind me in a week if this person hasn't got back to me, so that you've still got a tab on that project. Your brain's not going to remind you about it if you don't trust that that person is going to get it done. And it'll allow you to follow up. And then it's defer it. So you can defer it to your calendar if you want to do it on a certain day, or you defer it to your next actions list, which is the list of things you want to do as soon as possible. This is really the magic of the system, this next actions list. Once you've taken a holistic look at everything you want to do, processed it into whether you're going to do it now or later, and filtered it down to the things that you are able to do as soon as possible, you have a list of things that you can make a prioritization about what you want to do in front of you, which is very valuable. A quick note on projects. Projects are overwhelming. Definitely they are for me. And something that David Allen says in the Getting Things Done book is that you can't actually do a project. You can only do a next action. And this is an important thing I've kind of skipped past a little bit, but if you have an item in your inbox that you're processing and it's multi-step, your brain will have trouble letting it go until you've identified the next action at least. You don't have to plan out the whole project if it's a big project. But if you haven't said to yourself, research where I'm going to buy that phone case, your brain is going to be not letting go of the idea of buying that phone case because you haven't given it a plan of how you're going to do it. Okay, so now that you have everything in these buckets, you can basically just work out of your buckets. So if it's on your calendar, you're doing that. That's a calendar item. It can only happen at that certain time. That's probably going to be your highest priority thing. If it's not on your calendar and you've got some free time, you're looking at your next actions list and you're just thinking, what's the best thing I could do on this list at this time, given how much time I have, and then doing it. There's things that you can do to make this potentially easier for you. For example, you can tag items, especially if you have a digital system. Say this will take 2 hours, and then you can sort your lists. So for example, if you have 2 hours, you can sort it so that you only see things that are 2 hours or less. You don't want to see the 5-hour tasks. You're not going to be able to get them done. It's better to not look at them. It'll help you to make that decision about what to do just a little bit faster. Jared and I use a most important tasks system at the moment. So you just look at your next actions list or your projects list and you say, what are the most important projects or tasks to do? And then you prioritize getting those done first. That's helpful for people that find it difficult to make all these micro decisions about what to do next. So I do recommend trying that out if you find yourself having trouble with that. But don't get stuck in the weeds about exactly how you implement this system. There's a quote here I want to share. As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble. So just give it a go, implement your own method. You can do it paper, digitally. You can use any kind of system. There's a lot of advice on YouTube about setting up these systems. I personally use Notion, but yeah, it's about understanding the principles. Okay, so part of the system is being able to trust the system. So what you want to do here is implement a systematic process for going through that clarification step where you go through your inbox and sort things into their correct buckets. So the recommendation here is that you have a weekly review, and the specific recommendation is that you book out 2 hours a week to do this. Put it into the calendar, treat that as sacred. Get into the habit of actually doing that, and your brain will have no issue leaving you alone, because it will know he's going to look at that, she's going to look at that in those 2 hours every week. Okay, so I want to make a point about why you want to systematize getting things done instead of doing it off the cuff. So the logic here is that anything important requires you to do it consistently over time. And to do anything consistently over time, you need some kind of system for that. For most people, relying on willpower isn't going to be enough for that. If you look at your life and the things that you've made significant progress on, you probably had a system. And getting things done is just the process of identifying something that's different to the way you would like it to be, and then taking steps to move it in the direction that you want. Okay, so having a system that you rely on to do things you're committed to sounds restrictive and sterile. It's actually incredibly freeing. Knowing everything that you really want to get done is done in an automatic way. It's drastically increased my ability to do more personally, and it feels amazing. Okay, so here's a quick worked example. So we've got renovate the house, get a better home loan, improve my cardio, create the business I've always wanted, pass my uni semester. So those feel very heavy. You can't do any of those. You want to break them down. So the next actions might be buy a tin of white paint, email broker pay slips, put the running shoes by the door for tomorrow's run, research incorporating business in Australia, watch the first lecture for Economics 101. So even just doing that simple bit of processing has created a different feeling. The anxiety is reduced because you can see a tangible thing you can do to progress forward on your objectives. So the quick call to action to get yourself kind of up and running with the method would just be get an A4 sheet of paper or a Word document or your notes app and just fill it with everything on your mind that you want to get done. And then just go through that list and think to yourself, is this trash? Is this a someday maybe? Should this go on the calendar? And then if it's actionable, can I delegate it? Is it a project? Does it need a next action defined? And yeah, if you've done that and you're left with a next actions list, leave a comment if you feel a lot better. Okay, I hope this information was helpful. Please subscribe to the channel. Our mission is unlocking human potential, and it's a new channel, so please leave us ideas about what videos you'd like to see, and there's a high likelihood that we will make those if there's interest. Yeah, we hope that we can take you on the journey of unlocking your own potential, doing what you've always wanted to do.